Part 113. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1121. The air suddenly became stagnant, and after a while, an extremely difficult voice came, Xiao Hong. Not bad. Zuyun was in a good mood and chuckled, do you still remember Xiao He? However, later he refined the poisonous demon dragon's 10,000 years of poison and turned it into a poisonous true dragon, all green. I plan to call him Xiaolu, one red and one green, you two are a perfect match. Xiao Hong opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She simply closed her mouth and comforted herself in her heart, the name is just a title, it's nothing. No wonder Zuyun is not good at naming. However, when Xiaolu was mentioned, Zuyun thought of him again. He didn't know how he was doing now or where he was. Master, what's wrong? Seeing Zuyun sigh, Xiao Hong asked quickly. It's nothing, I just remembered that Xiaolu is here. When you see her, you should get close and close. Zuyun's mood was waning, and he waved his hand, and the sound of footsteps came from behind him again. Zuyun, I'm almost done, when will you let me out? It's Nujiao. This. Zuyun originally thought that Menghui was the one in the Jinhai section. As long as they were not allowed to meet for the time being, there would be no big problem. Before figuring out the relationship between the two, Zuyun would never let them meet. It would be okay if there was no relationship, but as I guessed, Menghui was the incarnation of Nujiao. Zuyundu hasn't figured out how to face it yet. Let's give it some time. Zuyun could only prevaricate. He never expected Ergu and Jiu from Jinhai sect. When I heard Luo Lai talking about these two people, I didn't listen carefully to what he said next. If I had known earlier, I would have listened more carefully. Apart from these two people, I only remember one sword phoenix. There seemed to be two other people who had joined some kind of sect that made weapons or alchemy. He didn't remember their locations very clearly. He couldn't be sure whether they were Daegu or Menghui. Why wait any longer? You promised me then. Nujiao was a little excited, and Zuyun couldn't help but be stunned. What's wrong? Weren't you in a hurry before? Nujiao took a deep breath and said, some things won't be clear for a while, but anyway, I hope I can go out now. Zuyun frowned, thought for a moment, and said, I am in the sea at this time. You are not familiar with the lower realm, and your realm is comparable to nascent soul, right? How about I let you out after I land on land? Keep your word. Nujiao's expression became more relaxed, and she still believed in Zuyun. That's good. Zuyun looked back at Xiao Hong and said, you can go to the dragon transformation pond to consolidate. For the first time to become a true dragon, you still need to adapt to the true dragon cultivation method or other things. Yes, master. After he returned, Zuyun said, just wait a little longer, I'll do it now. Zuyun left the immortal mansion, but he was a little tangled in his heart. When Nujiao looked over just now, he originally wanted to hide it for a while, but that look. It should be because she practiced the divine eye technique. Originally, her magical power was above the demon eye. Although the demon eye no longer exists and she has recultivated the divine eye technique, such a talent is really terrifying. Fortunately, I did not lie to her. This is also it is indeed in the sea. Zuyun sighed, not to mention that he was still frightened, but he also had a new understanding of Nujiao. But why was she in such a sudden hurry to leave? Zuyun slowly escaped towards the sea, thoughts racing in his mind. Suddenly, he thought of the key point. The magic knife in Ergu's hand. The universe world and the immortal mansion are separated, but perhaps they are still connected, allowing Nujiao to feel the existence of the magic knife. Or perhaps, she was very close to the magic sword before, so she was tainted with the magic sword's aura and was sensed by her. If it's the first one, that's fine, but if it's the second one. If she followed the scent all the way to Jinhaizong and couldn't find the magic knife, would she get angry at Jiu or? No, after we release her later, we have to find a way to track her. I don't know if my formations can block Nujiao's divine eye technique. Zuyun scratched his head hard and finally came up with a solution. Before landing, he summoned the avatar of water and asked him to use the water escape technique to go to Jinhai sect by water. This place is only more than 100 miles away from Jinhaizong, which is not too far. After lighting a stick of incense, Zhu Yunke stood on the shore and summoned Nujiao from the immortal mansion. Is this, the lower realm? Is this meager power in the air spiritual power? Nujiao is a demon from the fairy world. Even if she becomes the mate of the immortal emperor, she has always been in the fairy palace. The fragments of the immortal mansion are incomplete, but the spiritual power inside is transformed from the chaotic power of the void. Compared to the spiritual world, it is many times richer. It's natural that I'm a little uncomfortable appearing here. The biggest impact is that the power of his sword skills will be weakened a lot. This was something she hadn't expected. But since Zuyun was urged to let her out, it was impossible to go back immediately. Nujiao took a deep breath and then said goodbye to Zuyun. Zuyun, if we say goodbye now, we may never see you again. You can't sense the Diwu glazed mirror. Zuyun was stunned and said. Nujiao shook her head and explained, I can't sense it. I'm just connected to the bed in that bedroom. But the immortal mansion is beyond this world, and the power of my demon soul is not that strong. Then, will we see you again in the future? Nujiao tilted her head, then smiled and said, if you can ascend to immortality, you can leave a message at Purgatory Mountain. You don't know about other places, so we can meet at Purgatory Mountain, how about it? I will definitely go to Purgatory Mountain, Zuyun nodded seriously and said, but you? It's just a matter of cultivating an immortal. It's extremely simple. After all, I am also the daughter of a holy demon. Anyone who wants to destroy my soul cannot exist in the lower world. Zuyun asked in surprise, immortal? That's more or less what I mean, Nujiao said confidently, unless the immortals from the upper realm come down, the monks from the lower realm, even if their strength in the tribulation stage is far greater than mine, can only destroy my body and body at most. In the realm of cultivation, the worst is to start from scratch. Don't forget, even if I am defeated, my lifespan will be infinite. If I really encounter an enemy and cannot defeat it, I will have to hide somewhere and survive for thousands of years. That's good. I can't beat it, I can survive it. I didn't expect that becoming an immortal and achieving unlimited lifespan would have such magical effects. Is it true that after I finish my cultivation, I can find a place to hide so as not to get involved in the chaos of the fairy world? Seeing Zuyun suddenly thinking deeply, Nujiao smiled and walked away without disturbing him. Zuyun stared blankly, and when he reacted, he saw that Nujiao did not go in the direction of Jinhai sect, but instead went deep inland. She isn't the aura she felt from me. Then, it's the relationship after the magic sword entered the world of the universe. Zuyun had mixed feelings in his heart. Even if Nujiao left, he had awakened her who originally wanted to die, and used this as a reason to continue practicing. It's impossible to keep her trapped in the immortal mansion forever. It can be said that I have not broken my trust, however, I can only find Wei as soon as possible. I really don't know what they will be like if they meet. If it doesn't work, then let Wei also enter the world of the universe to practice. If Nujiao comes, go into the immortal mansion. Zuyun sighed slightly, and after thinking a little in his heart, he summoned another fire incarnation. Jianhuang can't be Wei. Wei doesn't use swords. He's not a big dog either. Luo Lai made it clear that Jianhuang is a woman. Then the two people he mentioned seemed to have gone to some sect. It would be best to let the fire incarnation go and find it. Zuyun's incarnation is no different from a real person, except that it will be a divine transformation stage with a single attribute. In comparison, the overall strength is only 10% of Zhu Yun's. If it's really a sect there, with a single fire root, it wouldn't be difficult to sneak in and find someone. The incarnation also masters Zhu Yun's magical powers, but due to the relationship between the fire spirit beads, some moves with corresponding attributes are also restricted. For example, the incarnation of fire can use the fire living spell, and the talismans drawn are also of fire attribute. In addition, when the sword energy is released outward, what is released is also the sword energy condensed by the fire spiritual power. There are others, all based on the spiritual power of fire. However, this is completely enough. Just when he was about to let the fire incarnation leave, Zhu Yun suddenly felt something in his heart and took out a huge dragon corpse from the ring. This is the fire dragon that once protected the sect in the fire dragon sect. Not a real dragon, not a demon dragon, but a spiritual dragon. The so-called spirit dragon is a dragon that cultivates spiritual power. It is actually similar to the demon dragon. What the demon dragon cultivates is demon power, which belongs to the demon beast. The spirit dragon cultivates its spiritual power and returns to the spirit beast. What they have in common is that they all have the blood of a true dragon. A real dragon is full of treasures, but who dares to touch a real dragon? This spiritual dragon can be used as a stepping stone to sneak into the section. If possible, Zhu Yun wouldn't mind using the spirit dragon to make a good sword for the big dog. The premise is that the fire incarnation can find Daegu and Menghui. After the arrangements were made, Zhu Yun continued along the coast towards the Nine Netherlands. At the same time, the water incarnation also came to Zhenhai sect. With such a distance, Shui Jianyuan and Zhu Yun's thoughts were unable to connect, and they could only act on instinct. If Nujiao comes, it will be too late. Otherwise, I should take Xiu away first. The water incarnation raised his head out of the sea and looked at Zhenhai sect with a low voice. A monk named Jidan Stage came out of the sect and flew towards the sea. After thinking about it, he approached the coast, and then drew a breathing charm to hide his realm in the Danji stage, and then walked towards the sect in a swaggering manner. There is no doubt that he was stopped by two foundation guards. "Senior, why did you come to our sect?" The water incarnation chuckled and said, "I'm looking for Elder Nangong." Immediately, the two foundation building disciples stood up straight and said, "Senior, please come and report later." "It doesn't matter." The water incarnation waved his hand, but in his heart he thought that he still made a mistake. If only he had known to hold his breath until the nascent soul stage, Xiu might still come out to meet him. What is revealed now is the core formation stage, and Xiu cannot condescend to show it. However, there is not enough time left to enter the sect and explain things in detail in the formation. Although Nujiao is stunning, her speed is not that fast. But while the water incarnation was waiting at the door, a huge crowd suddenly appeared in the distance. More than 100 of them are all in the elixir formation stage. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1122. The crowd was huge, and the water incarnation could see through it at a glance. They were all in the Dan formation stage, but the one guarding the gate in the foundation stage was in a panic, as if he had encountered a disaster. He didn't dare to stay at the door, and ran towards the door. The entire Zhenhai sect does not have so many pill-forming periods now. This caught Shui Jiajia off guard, and he didn't know whether he should follow him into the sect or continue to stay here. The pill formation stage did not pose any threat to him, but what he was afraid of was that if there was a fight or too much noise, he would attract slaves. Just as he was hesitating, a Danja who was walking at the front suddenly said something to the two people next to him, and more than 100 people rushed towards him. "I've seen Zhu Xian." 100 steps away, the three leading men knelt down and leaned on the ground facing the water incarnation, almost roaring. At this time, the water incarnation came back to his senses, and it turned out to be Lugolai and others. Get up. The water incarnation smiled bitterly and waved his hand casually. At this moment, a beautiful figure suddenly rushed over from the door. When he saw that it was Zuyun, he was stunned. Zuyun, why are you back? And you brought so many pill-forming periods with you. Xiu'er's eyes flickered, full of doubts, thinking that Zuyun was afraid of not having enough manpower, so he summoned these pill-forming periods for her use. Water Avatar scratched his head and said, unexpected, unexpected, I originally had something to tell you, but who knew these people would come here? What words? Upon hearing this, Xiu'er ignored the second half of the sentence. That's right, this place may not be safe for the time being, so I have to take you away first. Ah! Why is it unsafe? When Zuyun left, it could be said that he was very well prepared. Xiu'er also knew that Zuyun was a thoughtful person and would not leave unless everything was ready. I can't explain at the moment, but... He pondered for a moment, and with Lugo as the first class, they would naturally listen to his orders. If there are so many people here, even if Nujiao comes, it is impossible for her to have an affair with Xiu'er. Misunderstood. After all, Xiu'er is also in the nascent soul stage, while Nujiao is only comparable to the nascent soul stage. Just let her hide the news about Ergu and the magic knife. We'll talk about it later. I'll go ask Lugolai and them what's going on. Of course, the water incarnation knew that this was a chance encounter with Lugolai, but the fact that they gathered here and did not continue to the outer world showed that the pills given by the main body had satisfied them. It just so happens that Jin Haizong is also owned by him, and they are all casual cultivators. If they all join in, maybe Jin Haizong can also become a force. The water incarnation walked up to Lugolai and looked at the excited people. He asked softly, why are you here? Wish immortal. Lugolai was extremely excited and said, we didn't know the identity of Zhu Xian at first, but when you left, we felt that this was our destiny, and we planned to form our own section. We even picked a name, let's call it Xianguang Sect. Xianguang Sect. Zuyun was dumbfounded, then smiled, and said, that's a good name. Are you looking for a place to establish a sect now? Exactly. The monk in white beside Lugoli also said quickly, we thought it would be better to rely on the sea. The sky is vast and the resources in the sea are inexhaustible, so we came all the way along the coastline. Unexpectedly, we met Zhu Xian again. Is there anything Zhu Xian needs us to do here? It's our duty to do so. The bearded man also quickly expressed his stance. The water incarnation pondered a little, these hundreds of people in the Dan formation stage couldn't make any trouble in his affairs at all. Even if they go to Daegu and Menguia, they won't be of any help. But since we meet again, it would be great. He had some thoughts in his mind, smiled slightly, and said, this place is good, and this Jinhai sect is also run by my friend back then. You can join the Jinhai sect, or you can join the Jinhai section. It's just right that the Xianguang sect is standing next to Haizong. I need some help to find something in the sea. I'll let Elder Nangong of Jinhaizong tell you what I need later. Zhu Xian's instructions must be completed. The three of them said in unison. Ha ha ha, Shuajia smiled cheerfully and said, just wait here for a moment. I will call you in later. The water incarnation turned around and walked to Xiu'er, took her into the sect, and said, Xiu'er, these people think I am an immortal. You must not let it slip. If you can make good use of them, what will happen to you? You are of great help too. Xiu'er nodded in confusion, thinking that Zuyun was quite powerful. He was only in the stage of becoming a god, but in the end, people in the stage of forming pills recognized him as an immortal. The water incarnation didn't know what Xiu'er was thinking, so he continued, anyway, don't let it slip. These people respect me very much, so you can practice here with peace of mind. I will leave something for them when the time comes, okay. Let them break through the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. Moreover, there are not many high-level monks in the spiritual world, so if you are a force, no one else would dare to cause trouble here. Besides, the purpose of my coming here is that a female sword cultivator in the nascent soul stage may come here to look for Urgu's magic sword. At present, I don't know what her relationship with the magic sword is. First, you must not hurt her. Second, you must pretend not to know, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. By then, there will be many people on your side, and you are also in the nascent soul stage, so I think there will be no accidents. Third, if you are worried, if the 6 elders come back, you can ask them to stay in the Jinhai sect temporarily. The matter of searching for poisonous substances in the sea will be left to the people in the Jindan stage of the Jinhai sect and the people of the Xianguang section. Xianguang sect. Xiu looks strange. It's those people. Seeing that I have attracted the fairy light, they may have some insights, so they didn't establish the sect, but thought of the name instead. The water incarnation smiled, and explained everything in detail, and then took Xiu to meet Luo Lai and others. Luo Lai and the others were flattered. They didn't know what they talked about. In the end, they all decided to join the Jinhai sect and renamed the Jinhai sect directly to the Xianguang sect. The water incarnation didn't care about these. He left some elixirs used in the Jindan period. With the recipe, he threw himself into the sea again and rushed to the location of the main body. But the water incarnation didn't know that guarding against Nujiao became useless, but it led to another thing. Nujiao did feel the breath of the magic knife on Zuyun, but it was very weak. This was because of her realm. The original plan was to go out until the Shenhua period, but the breath of the magic knife made her a little unbearable, so she urged Zuyun to let her leave. After parting with Zuyun, she had no purpose. For some reason, she resisted Zuyun in her heart. She just wanted to leave as soon as possible, so she walked towards the north. As for Zuyun, he was worried and continued along the coast. He was far away from the water incarnation. He could only vaguely feel his location, but he didn't know what the water incarnation had encountered for the time being. In addition, there was the wood incarnation, who took Tu Gong to find a remote mortal land. After settling down, he also headed towards the 9 netherworld. Mortal world, Yajing Chuzhu, the border of Chenan. Boom. 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 Countless volcanoes raged, and lava gushed out from the cracks in the ground, like a vast sea of red. Smoke billowed, and countless red candle beasts hiding and living in the cracks in the ground actually escaped from these ground veins. They couldn't stay in the place where they could settle down and practice. It is conceivable that what kind of drastic changes had taken place in the ground veins of Chuzhu. Roar. Suddenly, a huge roar sounded again, and the ground shook. Then, countless cracks in the ground exploded, and then a huge body rushed out from under the ground. It was a red candle beast more than 10 feet tall. Controlled by the way of heaven, this red candle beast was obviously only at the level of the Demon King, but the breath revealed by its body was extremely terrifying. The ground shook, the volcano collapsed, and the magma formed a sea of fire, surging in all directions with it as the center. Those red candle beasts who were still watching fled in panic. Their blood made them feel familiar with the giant red candle beast, but more of it was murderous intent. As these red candle beasts left, the giant red candle beast began to go crazy. The ground fire surged, like a violent storm in the wild sea. There were many mortals in the land of Chenan, and even if they were hundreds of miles away, they were still fleeing for their lives. To the west, there were the 100,000 mountains, and the frightened monsters fled to the depths. To the north, there were some mortal cultivators who settled down. They didn't dare to think that there were any strange treasures coming out, so they fled far away. To the east, there was Yazhu. All the cultivators in the Yasha realm returned through the 100,000 mountains. Only the cultivators in the Peepa realm and Yesuanhua had to pass through Yeashu. They all felt the momentum of the sky collapsing and the earth splitting, and decided to come back to take a look. Fellow deist, yeah, said Elder Dan, the leader of the Fire Dragon sect, in a deep voice, the fire is strong over there, do you want to go back and take a look? Elder Dan is proficient in the way of alchemy, and he has a common language with Yesuanhua. I have been in the land of Chinan for a while, and the fire is indeed a bit too strong. If Senior Dan hadn't mentioned it, I really wouldn't dare to go and see it. Yesuanhua laughed at himself because he was only in the Jindan stage. It doesn't matter, Elder Dan laughed and said, just take a look, with us taking care of you, nothing will happen if you go. Yes, another cultivator stood up and said, fellow deist, yet is polite, although you are in the Jindan stage, you have taught a disciple like Zuxian, which is something we can't do in our lifetime. The speaker is the leader of the Tianzhen sect. From beginning to end, they didn't know that Tianzhenzi actually died at the hands of Zuyun. The current leader, named Wanzhenzi, is Tianzhenzi's junior brother. He also practices the way of formation and can talk to Yesuanhua. After they thought Yao Fuzong was completely dead, they stayed in the Silver Sword sect and discussed the art of formations, and gained a lot. Just take a look, I just happened to be studying a kind of earth-fire formation recently. Yesuanhua laughed. In addition to them, there were several other sect leaders, all of whom were in the nascent soul stage, so there shouldn't be any problems, right? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1123. After an unknown amount of time, the ground fire in the land of Chinan suddenly stopped going crazy, and the giant red candle beast also became quiet. There is no doubt that this is Xiao Huo competing with Yao Fuzong for body control. Although Xiao Huo is powerful and has reached the realm of Demon Saint, compared to the soul of Yao Fuzong in the Mahayana period, it is completely different. If he hadn't encountered that fake wood spirit bead, he might have been snatched away by Yao Fuzong. Neither he nor Yao Fuzong expected that they would encounter a soul. This soul is only in the pill-forming stage, but with the infinite vitality in the pseudo-wood spirit bead, it can compete with them, forming a three-legged situation in Xiao Huo's body. You are only at the stage of forming a pill, but you still dare to compete with me for the body of a monster beast. Yao Fuzong roared angrily. He had already felt endless shame and had no choice but to seize the body of the monster in order to survive. Who knew that Mu Qingxin would interfere? Mu Qingxin gritted her teeth with hatred. Ever since she was thrown to the bottom of the sea of fire by Zuyun while hiding in the fake wood spirit bead, she could only linger for a breath. Finally, she waited for a monster that could get in and escaped. As a result, with her low level, she couldn't even feel that there was a Mahayana spirit in it. Fortunately, the pseudo-wood spirit bead has unlimited vitality and the demon soul checks and balances it, so she can be safe and sound. But if you want to go further, it is impossible. In contrast, Xiao Huo was very open-minded. He stabilized his demon consciousness and allowed Yao Fuzong and Mu Qingxin to stir up troubles in his body. As long as he lives, he believes that he can meet Zuyun again. There are so many places he can go in this mortal world. Peepa realm, Yasha realm, or Dongsheng realm. He could even go to Yunzhou to find a corner to recuperate and practice again. He has cultivated to the level of Demon Saint and has followed Zuyun for a long time, staying in the world of the universe, so he naturally has such a state of mind. This is so, from the outside, Xiao Huo seems to be crazy. At the same time, his lifespan is long, and the pseudo-wood spirit bead is not completely controlled by Mu Qingxin, and the vitality in it can stabilize his body. It allows him, the original owner, to be a spectator with peace of mind. We are also human beings during the Dan formation stage, why can't we? Mukingzin has not been easy to mess with since her change of heart, and after so many years in the fire vein, she is as good at talking as anyone else. And, how dare you talk to me like this? Do you dare to come out of this bead? Yao Fuzong's soul roared. In the past, under the Mahayana period, anyone who dared to speak like this would have died. Are you stupid or am I stupid? I'm fine in the beads now, why should I come out? Mukingzin also knew her situation. She would die when she came out. How could she die again? Yao Fuzong was furious, but there was really nothing he could do. Mukingzin didn't trust anyone. In the previous fight, she refused to come out despite his rhetoric and coercion. That's right. This fake wood spirit bead has become Mukingzin's natal magical weapon. Although it cannot be mastered, Yao Fuzong really cannot destroy it under the law of heaven. This was born from the wood spirit pearl, and then was nourished by the world tree. If it were in the spirit world, Yao Fuzong could easily destroy it. But this is the mortal world. I always feel like things are going to change. Yunzhou, barren rock mountain. Zhu Feng held a boy in his arms and looked northwest. Dad, what are you talking about? It's still daylight. The boy blinked his big eyes, somewhat similar to Zhu Feng. It's daylight, but for some people it's dark. The boy didn't understand what Zhu Feng said, but when he saw his father babbling away, he ran out to play. Originally, I wanted to wait until you got a wife and had children before leaving, but I haven't been able to sleep well for several years. Zhu Feng looked at his son's figure, murmured and looked back at the house. I have crossed mountains and seas before, why would I want to stay in this barren mountain? Brother, I wish my family a happy future. Although I am not an adult, I think it is enough. If I don't seek immortality, I feel that I may seek death at any time. If I see you again, I will make it clear to you, and you will be beaten and scolded as you like. As Zhu Feng spoke, he walked towards the firewood house and pulled out a long sword from under a pile of dead firewood. This sword was left to him by Zhu Yun. The sword is a good sword, but Zhu Feng is still a human being. There is a storage bag hanging on the side handle. Inside, there were pills for cultivation, but Zhu Feng was unable to open them. After emptying the storage bag and tying it around his waist, and hanging the long sword, Zhu Feng walked back to his bedroom and looked in the mirror to arrange his clothes. A woman asked in shock, "Ms. Sir, what are you?" Zhu Feng smiled slightly and said, "Madam, my heart is not here, so I should go. For the rest of my life, take good care of my parents, and take good care of Ling Er." Zhu Feng's son is named Zhu Ling. "Ms. Sir, where are you going?" The woman covered her mouth, and 2 lines of clear tears flowed out. "I'm going to find immortals." After saying that, he walked to the door without hesitation, but suddenly stopped and stood still for a long time before turning around. "Madam, I am sorry for you. But without Sungzian, I would live like a walking zombie." After that, he ran away. After a long time, the woman realized what she was doing and followed her out of the house, but there was no sign of Zhu Feng. She collapsed on the ground and cried. She didn't know Zhu Feng's past, but she only knew that it was not easy to become an immortal. The road to immortality is long, and I once heard that the immortal sect only accepts children with extraordinary talents. But my husband-in-law is in his 30s, how can he be looking for an immortal? This is obviously seeking death. At the foot of the barren rock mountain. At some point, a smile appeared on Zhu Feng's face. "Go to the spirit realm sect first and ask for news about Master. If my elder brother has forgiven me, Master will definitely forgive me too." It had only been a few years since Zhu Feng became immortal. From his point of view, the mortal world was still the same as before. But how did he know that in this mortal world, things and people have already changed. At the foot of the Lingjian sect mountain, people were coming and going. Bustling and crowded. The small town back then was like a big city. However, going to the mountain gate of Lingjian sect didn't change at all. Lingjian sect is already the largest sect within 1,000 miles radius. Who is coming? Two qi refining stagers stopped Zhu Feng with arrogant expressions on their faces. Two senior brothers, I want to see the sect master. A qi refining period man said dissatisfiedly, do you think you are a member of the immortal sect if you hang a sword? Is that what you call me, senior brother? Get out of my way. After that, he used his spiritual power slightly and directly lifted Zhu Feng out. Another person laughed loudly and said, although our Lingjian sect says that anyone with any spiritual root can enter the sect, you are 30 or 40 years old, so you can't enter the sect. Zhu Yun climbed up from halfway up the mountain, dusted his clothes, and was not angry. He approached the mountain gate again and said with a smile, I'm looking for the sect leader Zhou Ruyu. Or the deputy sect leader Yu Yulin. He also knew that even if Sun Qiniang was here, he could not call her by name. Of course, he would not tell Zhu Yun's name. He knew what kind of reputation Zhu Yun had in Yunzhou and in the entire mortal world. Do you really know the sect leader? The qi refining cultivator who took action opened his eyes wide and looked at his companion. Of course I know you, Zhu Feng smiled and said, I'm from Barren Rock Mountain, so I asked my senior brother to introduce me. This. The two looked at each other. If they hadn't done anything before, it would have been easier. It's time to start. What if he files a complaint with the sect leader? Thinking of this, the older qi refining cultivator said, the sect master has gone out of the city and is not in the section. Zhu Feng smiled and said, you can introduce me to the sect? Don't worry, I'm just immortal, I won't run around, and I don't dare to run around. That's what I mean, the qi refining cultivator said quickly, I'll take you there, and when the sect master comes back, I'll take you there again, how about that? Good work. The two looked at each other and already made a decision. The older monk took Zhu Feng and walked towards the sect. After passing the mountain gate, he turned to the right. There is the Seven Stars Valley. This is the valley where Zhu Yun once studied and lived with Yesuanhua. But now, this is the holy land of Lingjian sect, and it is also a forbidden area. Zhu Feng narrowed his eyes. If he was looking for the sect master, shouldn't he go to the sect master's hall? He remained calm and asked, brother, where are you going? Of course you are going to the sect master's hall to wait. Since you know the sect master, I will definitely not let you go anywhere else. The qi refining monk patted his chest and said. He saw that Zhu Feng was a few years younger than Zhou Ruyu, so he must have come here to work as a handyman through the back door because he couldn't make a living in the mountains. But Zhu Feng had also killed a Yuanying monk and suppressed a heroic person back then. With just these words, he knew that the other party had murderous intentions. He smiled lightly and said, Senior brother, how long have you been coming to Lingjian sect? I've been here for 10 years. This is not a big problem, he will be a dead man after a while, so he said casually. 10 years. Zhu Feng sighed, then you must know Zhu Yun. How dare you call Zhu Xian by his first name? How brave you are. During this qi refining period, he suddenly got angry and yelled at Zhu Feng. Zhu Xian? Zhu Feng was slightly startled. Did Zhu Yun ascend to immortality? But when he subconsciously raised his head, he suddenly saw a huge statue, and he couldn't help but be stunned. Even a statue has been erected. Has he really become an immortal? Brother, you are so fast. It seems that it is difficult for me to catch up with you. After shaking his head, Zhu Feng thought about it. Although my eldest brother is not very talented, he has a good character. It is only expected that he can achieve this. Zhu Feng is not the same as before. When he was immortal, he could suppress his murderous nature. But when he decided to seek immortality again, the time came. Will still come. Senior brother, he quickly lowered his head and said apologetically, I'm sorry, Zhu Xian is our family, so we call him by his first name. My family. During the qi refining period, he was slightly stunned, but suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. He looked down in disbelief and saw a simple long sword that had passed through his body, disturbing his dantian. Crush. Yes, my family. Zhu Feng showed a harmless smile and said lightly, my name is Zhu Feng, and Zhu Yun is my eldest brother. You. He pointed at Zhu Feng with trembling hands, but couldn't say a word. Zhu Feng withdrew his sword, still with a smile on his face, so, the following is not the sect master's hall. If you want to kill me, of course I will kill you first. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1124. Zhu Feng withdrew the sword, and the body in the qi refining stage collapsed to the ground. Keep your eyes open and die with eyes open. Lingjian sect seems to have changed a bit. Zhu Feng murmured and looked up in the direction of Seven Star Valley. Once upon a time, it was Zhu Yun's training place. At this moment, outside the Seven Stars Valley, light suddenly flickered, and two figures walked out of it, talking and laughing. Zhu Feng. Zhou Ruyu was surprised to see Zhu Feng. Sister Ruyu. Zhu Feng had a smile on his face, just like before. Why are you here and killing people? Zhou Ruyu's surprise turned from surprise to surprise, and beside her, a woman in fiery red clothes suddenly burst into flames, directly covering Zhu Feng. The terrifying pressure seemed to come from the fire veins under the ground, and the scorching burning sensation seemed to burn him to ashes. Sister Nishang, wait. Zhou Ruyu spoke quickly, and Lian Nishang withdrew his pressure. Zhu Yun felt insignificant. But that's all. It's just the nascent soul stage. I think back then. It's not like he hasn't killed anyone in the nascent soul stage before. It turns out to be a fairy from the Fire Dragon sect. Zhu Feng was not afraid at all and held his fists in greeting. Snort. Lian Nishang snorted and turned her head. If Zhou Ruyu hadn't known Zhu Feng, she would have directly annihilated Zhu Feng here. Zhu Feng, you have embarked on the path to immortality again? Does Brother Zhu know? Zhou Ruyu asked. I know, of course I know. Zhu Feng smiled and waved the spiritual sword in his hand and said, this sword was left to me by my eldest brother, as well as this storage bag. Zhou Ruyu looked up and down. Zhu Feng didn't have any spiritual power in his body. If Zhu Yun hadn't given it to him, he would not have gotten it. Since Zhu Yun agreed, there was naturally nothing to say. Zhou Ruyu nodded slightly and said, you have practiced once and then start practicing again from scratch. It is difficult. So what are your plans? Since Zhu Feng came here, he had made up his mind and said in a deep voice, this time, I plan to specialize in swordsmanship. He has a resolute temperament. He had no choice before and embarked on the devil's path. Only by circulating among the strong can he survive. Now. Obviously no need. Specialized in swordsmanship. Zhou Ruyu was stunned for a moment, and then said, then there is no need for you to stay in Lingjian section. Lingjian sect is not suitable for you. She was telling the truth. Zhu Feng was Sun Qinyang's direct disciple. It could be said that he had mastered various sword techniques from Wanjian Mountain. No one in the sect can teach him. But Yezi, the only one alive in Wanjian Mountain, was at the Seven-Star Gate. Zhu Feng said helplessly, I know, but with my mortal body, I can't walk too far. Just coming from barren Stone Mountain took me a whole day. In this way, Joru thought for a moment and said, I just want to send some people to the 7-star gate to make the cultivation further. How about you follow Sister Nishang to the 7-star gate? Where is Elder Yezhi? I hope the wind will blow through. Yes, not only Elder Yezhi is here, but also the 7th uncle is here. Mentioning Yesuanhua, a strange color flashed in Zhu Feng's eyes. But then I thought about it. The grievances and grudges of the past have disappeared as his cultivation realm has been completely lost. He nodded and said, okay, then I'll go to the 7-star gate. After saying that, he clasped his fists at Lian Nishang again, it's time to work hard, Fairy Lian. Lian Nishang didn't speak, just nodded slightly. A few days later, Lian Nishang sacrificed a fire dragon boat, with more than 10 foundation building disciples sitting on the boat, flying towards the eastern Shengjing, the land of Chenan. There was no end to the fight in Xiao Huo's body. Although it became calmer, neither Mu Qingxin nor Yao Fuzong relaxed their vigilance. Even Xiao Huo is always paying attention to the changes on both sides. Among the three parties, he is the most passive. But it can survive temporarily in the cracks. Unless there is an external force to break it, it is absolutely impossible to escape. The final outcome will be that the body will be taken over by Mu Qingxin or Yao Fuzong. When will it end? Xiaohuo murmured in his heart that during these days, his body passed through Chenan land uncontrollably and saw the wild sea. The waves are rough and the wind is howling. All the mortals around him had fled early, leaving only empty villages. Little girl, if you continue like this, you and I will both be wasting our time. Yao Fuzong said in a deep voice to the fake wood spirit bead. I can't afford to waste it. Mu Qingxin said expressionlessly. It sounds like I can't afford to waste it, but remember, the end result of this is that you will die. What a joke, Mu Qingxin sneered, as long as I am in the mortal world, no one can kill me. You can't, and neither can Zuyun back then. Zuyun. Yao Fuzong's expression changed and he said in shock, you are talking about Zuyun, but... He described Zuyun's appearance in detail. Mu Qingxin was surprised, you know him too. Of course we know each other. Yao Fuzong gritted his teeth and said, the reason why I ended up like this is because of Zuyun. When I take possession of this demon cultivator's body and start practicing again, the first thing I will do is to kill him. He was so shrewd. When he saw Mu Qingxin's reaction, he found a breakthrough. Perhaps, Mu Qingxin's hatred for Zuyun can be exploited. I can't wait to eat its flesh and swallow its blood alive. Back then, Mu Qingxin was thrown off the volcano by Zuyun with hatred and sank into the bottom of the fire veins. It's dark and quiet there, and no living thing would go there. If Xiao Huo hadn't been possessed by Yao Fuzong and rushed over in a frenzy, she would never have seen the light of day again. I didn't expect that boy to be so cruel. Yao Fuzong was ecstatic in his heart and said in agreement. Aren't you in the Mahayana stage? How could you end up like this? Mu Qingxin calmed down and asked. It's a long story. Yao Fuzong was also filled with indignation and told in detail what happened at that time. And there are elements of exaggeration in this. Of course, it was impossible for him to tell his conspiracy, he just described Zuyun as a despicable person. Xiao Huo was shocked. If these two people formed an alliance and worked together to deal with him, it would be over. Mu Qingxin, don't listen to this person's nonsense. This person practices evil arts and wants to slaughter the human race. The 10,000 demons art in Chuzhu was made by him. Humph, Mu Qingxin said disdainfully, what he practices has nothing to do with me. Now, I just want Zuyun to die. As he spoke, he showed his madness. Can't do this, you can't do this. Xiaohuo was hysterical and shouted, if this Yao Fuzong takes over my body, the entire East mortal world will be devastated. Do you know what kind of person he is? So what if my life is ruined? I would rather betray the world than let the world betray me. If Zuyun betrays me, I want him to die. Seeing the crazy Mu Qingxin, Yao Fuzong was overjoyed. If he didn't have any means, how could he fool the 12 demon clans and be used by him? In addition to refining the demon refining tower, they also made use of their totem poles. Isn't it extremely easy to deal with Mu Qingxin now? Little girl, don't worry, you have this bead, just control the vitality in the bead and don't transfer it to this demon soul. When I completely take over this body, you can shrink your own soul into the bead. Go kill Zuyun when the time comes, and I'll let you do it too. Yao Fuzong proposed a fatal temptation. Okay, okay. I promise you. As long as I can see Zuyun again, I can promise anything. Mu Qingxin felt like she was going crazy. Xiao Huo's face was ashen, and he could only gather the power of his demon soul as much as possible to resist Yao Fuzong's soul method. Outside. Boom. 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 The ground shook and spread to the sea. Huge waves piled up and were heading towards the coast crazily. While resisting, Xiao Huo's mind was also racing with thoughts. My whole body is on fire. Since the matter is a foregone conclusion, I will definitely not give you a good body. He, Yao Fuzong, you can't even think of succeeding. Suddenly, Xiao Huo suddenly strengthened the power of the demon soul, gained the ability to control the body, and then flew towards the sea. After a few breaths, Xiao Huo suddenly dived into the sea. Chi! 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 In the huge waves, water smoke was billowing, and the fire on Xiao Huo was quickly extinguished. But the pseudo-wood spirit bead that is integrated with the body releases life force uncontrollably, nourishing Xiao Huo's body. Sea water is to a small fire, just like fire is to an ordinary person's body. The body was burned, but the vitality was recovering again. Repeatedly. Xiao Huo's body gradually sank into the bottom of the sea. Ha ha ha, Yao Fuzong, Mu Qingxin. Didn't you expect that? Are you surprised or surprised? The deeper Xiao Huo goes into the sea, the more water power attacks his body. In the end, he will definitely be dying and then die. By then, Yao Fuzong, who lives on his body, will undoubtedly die. Mu Qingxin can survive. But I can only live in the pseudo-wood spirit bead. Maybe he won't live to see the light of day again, I don't know. Because there is that kind of huge sea monster in the wild sea. When his body is destroyed, the light and power of the fake wood spirit bead can no longer be concealed, and the sea monster will definitely be attracted to him. In the end, she couldn't escape the word death. Of course, Xiao Huo also knew that even if Mu Qingxin could return to the shore, trying to deal with her master would be like using a mantis arm as a chariot. Thinking of this, Xiao Huo's heart finally calmed down. But no one thought of it. A few days later, when he was about to die, the power of vitality that gradually emerged unexpectedly attracted a sea monster with a familiar aura. Like the sharp teeth of a dragon, the scales of a dragon, the face of a tiger. Old Zhao. Xiao Huo murmured in disbelief and finally passed out. But when he closed his eyes, he also heard a shout. Little fire. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1125. Is this the Juyu land? The spiritual power is indeed more intense and weird than the Juyu land in the Yasha realm. Zuyun looked around and saw that Juyu land looked like a dark primeval forest. A few days later, Wood Avatar and Water Avatar had gathered here. They were surprised to learn that Luo Lai and the others had actually joined the Jinhai sect and changed the Jinhai sect into the Immortal Light sect. However, he could only smile and pass by the monks who had endless respect for him despite his journey to the mortal world. It's somewhat of a habit. He put away the water incarnation, but not the wood incarnation. The ancient trees here are towering. Although it is a place for demon cultivation, as long as there are trees, it is convenient for his wood incarnation to do things. The wood escape technique can make the avatar hide in the tree all the time, unable to reveal any breath. Of course, it is also extremely convenient to move, and you can dodge directly in the trees. For him, the spiritual world is not very dangerous, but not without danger. He is not familiar with the Juyu land, so he needs to be careful. Zuyun looked around and then got into the dense forest. Strange auras followed, making him somewhat uncomfortable. But that's it? I wonder if Nujiao will come here in the end. She is a demon after all, and the demonic ways in the lower world are improved from their demonic skills so that humans can practice them. As Zuyun walked, he remembered what Nujiao said at that time. Originally he couldn't imagine it at all, but after practicing the void-breaking spiritual eye technique and the divine eye technique, he began to understand it somewhat. Immortals and mortals have different paths, but as humans are the spirits of all things, there will always be a suitable one. Immortal techniques and mortal techniques are nothing more than different powers. As for immortal power, it actually contains some additional laws. After you find Lord Tingfeng, leave as soon as possible. However, you also need to ask her about Xianxia. Zuyun didn't come here to relax. In addition to promising Xiu'er, Xianxia was also one of them. Although he learned a lot of information about Xianxia's situation from Tu Gong, he did not dare to deal with it on his own with just one word. A bell welcoming summer is easy to kill. But a 5 elements section. But he didn't dare to act rashly. Compared to other sect forces, the 5 elements sect suffered the most losses. The 5 elements Sanren, who was at the peak of the tribulation in the later stages, was beaten to death by Ye Yuan. But for Zuyun, the 5 elements sect, which still has Mahayana stage, integration stage and void refining stage monks, is still an unmatched existence for him. If it weren't for that fragment, I wouldn't want to risk going to the 5 elements sect. Zuyun murmured, and his mind began to become active. Instead of walking around here, it would be better to let Mu incarnation go to find it. He should find a place to practice well. At such a close distance, the incarnation and Zuyun had the same thoughts and were connected. With just a thought in his mind, Mu incarnation fled towards the depths, while Zuyun's body flashed and appeared directly in the world of Dazhu. I haven't seen Xianxia for a long time, so I went to see how he was doing. Zuyun teleported away and soon reached the volcano. Boy Zuyun, I haven't seen you for a long time. Your cultivation seems to have improved again. A black shadow flew out from the temple and floated in front of Zuyun. Senior Array Immortal. Zuyun saluted politely. My Taoist formation, what truth have you realized? I didn't ask you last time. The formation Immortal circled around Zuyun and then asked. Thousands of formations, but I don't remember any of them. But, I realized something, which helped me break through to the middle stage of divine transformation. Oh? Tell me. The great road leads to simplicity, different paths lead to the same destination. Zuyun said these 8 words in a deep voice. The great road leads to simplicity, different paths lead to the same destination. Exactly. The great road leads to simplicity, different paths lead to the same destination. Immediately, the formation Immortal fell into deep thought. Obviously, these 8 words of Zuyun also made the formation Immortal realize something. Zuyun didn't bother and simply sat down cross-legged. It was late at night in the universe world. He looked up and saw 28 stars scattered in all directions. He looked in turn, and saw Qinglong, Suzaku, White Tiger, and Suanwu. They seemed to be alive and slowly rotating around him. Is this the center of the universe? Zuyun was slightly stunned and subconsciously used the divine eye technique. But suddenly, the four great beasts seemed to come to life and suddenly rushed towards him. Not good. Can the aura of this ancient divine beast be compared to that of an ordinary dragon or phoenix? Zuyun felt his chest was suffocating and he could hardly breathe. But in an instant, the stars returned to their original state again. And his divine eye technique also dispersed away. Is this the relationship between divine eye technique? Divine eye technique is an immortal method, and the 28 constellations are laws. Can't immortal magic understand the laws? Zuyun frowned. Thinking back to the time when I used the shaping void spirit eye technique to see the falsity of the fragment of heavenly talisman, this scene is very similar. How about going to talk to the ancestor of the Lin family? It just so happened that the formation immortal also fell into enlightenment. The formation immortal was a black ball, and Zuyun couldn't tell when the formation immortal would wake up, so he simply flashed his body and appeared in the immortal mansion. He picked up the Tian talisman and used the divine eye technique without hesitation. I saw that the two characters of Tianfu were twisted and sucked him directly into it. As soon as Zuyun appeared, he saw countless purgatory mountains like living creatures, glaring in the void. Brother Lin, don't misunderstand me, just listen to me first. Zuyun immediately shouted. The evil demon array was used by the Nightmare Demon King, and the aura of evil magic still remained in his body. As the master of Purgatory Mountain, the ancestor of the Lin family has made it his mission to suppress evil immortals throughout his life, but Zuyun is afraid that he will kill the wrong one. Brother Yexian, what else do you have to say? The voice of the ancestor of the Lin family came from all directions, and countless mountains of purgatory were ready to move. Obviously, he gave Zuyun a chance, but as long as Zuyun had an answer that dissatisfied him, these purgatory mountains would suppress him. I said, this is a misunderstanding, do you believe it? Brother Yexian, this is for your own good. The ancestor of the Lin family obviously didn't believe Zuyun's words. Brother Lin, do you think I will fall into a trap after practicing evil methods? Brother Yexian, you have never been to the fairy world. You don't know how far those evil immortals in the fairy world will go to any extent in order to deceive the capture of Purgatory Mountain. Zuyun asked blankly, what kind? I swore that my dearest relative would be struck by thunder and lightning, just by opening his mouth. Think about it again. Zuyun was dumbfounded, then smiled bitterly and said, Brother Lin, if you have a way, why don't you see why the aura of evil appears in my body? Aren't you afraid of killing the wrong person? I would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. The evil immortal is the scum of the human race. One evil immortal will kill thousands of immortals just for his own chance of survival. Zuyun emphasized, I know, but can you first see why I have the aura of evil in my body? Brother Lin, this is the point. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. What do you think? My uncle is Ye Yang. If an evil immortal appears after the immortal king, you won't need to take action, right? Think twice, said the ancestor of the Lin family, the Ye immortal king is the Ye immortal king, and the evil immortal is the evil immortal. The Ye immortal king will not let the evil immortal go, but I have met many evil immortals with the surname Ye who call themselves he is a relative of King Yexian, and he has eluded many of our Lin family's detectives. Zuyun's eyes widened, feeling incredible. So, brother Ye, don't blame me for being too reactive. However, after you escaped before, I also thought about it, and I really can't misunderstand. It is better to kill the wrong person, which means that the suspect cannot prove his innocence. Under such circumstances. First, tell me why you have the aura of evil on your body. Hearing this, Zuyun finally breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't know that the ancestor of the Lin family had not figured it out these days, but was arranging it in this heavenly book space all the time. The countless mountains of purgatory were created by him condensing the power of his remaining soul and combining it with the only laws in this space. Every purgatory mountain can suppress Zuyun. Only then did he give Zuyun a chance to speak. Brother Lin, I have fallen into someone else's trick. Zuyun sighed and told in detail about his encounter with the Lord of White Tiger City. Right now, if you want to know more about the Divine Eye technique, you still need to gain the trust of the ancestor of the Lin family. His status is not low in the immortal world. From his previous words, we can know that as long as it is an evil immortal or an evil magician, he will not even give Yang face. He is truly a rare and upright immortal. You mean, you were hit by the 10,000 Bloods evil array? The figure of the ancestor of the Lin family finally appeared in front of Zuyun. I heard what the nightmare monster said was the evil formation of 10,000 Bloods. Relax, I'll come in and take a look. The ancestor of the Lin family said in an unquestionable tone. Zuyun suddenly hesitated. Because there is Chaos Lotus in his belly. Even Chaos Lotus will be trapped by those 3 blood formations, which shows how powerful this evil formation of 10,000 blood is. What, you don't want to? Seeing Zuyun's reaction, the ancestor of the Lin family suddenly raised his voice. Brother Lin, everyone has some secrets. Can you leave some for me? Zuyun smiled bitterly. Chaos Lotus is his biggest secret. You have to know that you don't have a choice. The ancestor of the Lin family raised his pen slightly and said to Zuyun's eyes, in other words, I don't have a choice either. Let's put it this way, the 10,000 blood evil formation is the most popular. It's an evil way to hold grudges in the immortal world, and the evil immortal who created this evil method is the enemy of our purgatory mountain, or the entire immortal world. After hearing this, Zuyun also knew the seriousness of the matter. But in comparison, my Chaos Lotus. Brother Yexian, you have only 2 choices now. 1. Let me enter your body to check. 2. I will use this purgatory mountain to suppress you. Since you can't prove your innocence, let me prove it for you. This is enough to give Yang face. If it were someone else, I would just kill him. Why do I need to tell you so much? Zuyun took a deep breath and said, Brother Lin, can you tell me the life and past of the 10,000 blood evil immortal, and then let me make my own decision. The 3 blood formations have always remained in Zuyun's body, coming and going without a trace. Zuyun can feel it. But there is no way to deal with it. If the ancestor of the Lin family knew about it, he might be able to find a certain method after understanding it. If that doesn't work, we can only let the ancestor of the Lin family come in and take a look. Otherwise, there is no way for him to know the magical effect of the Divine Eye technique. The 28 constellations are the only powers of law that he can control now. The other one is the law of chaos. But the law of chaos becomes more and more pure as his realm improves. The law of the 28 constellations needs to be constantly understood. The key to enlightenment is the Divine Eye technique. Just now, the 4 divine beasts rushed towards him, making him vaguely see something. That's why he took the risk to come to the heavenly book space. But he didn't expect that he would have to deal with another disaster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1126. The evil immortal of 10,000 bloods. You can tell from his immortal name that what he practices is the evil technique that uses blood as the law. This person is indeed a celestial being, but it's a pity that he doesn't follow the right path. When talking about this, the ancestor of the Lin family couldn't help but grit his teeth. Blood also has laws. Zuyun was stunned. Of course, there are 3,000 avenues in the mortal world, and there will naturally be 3,000 laws in the fairy world. The movement of heaven and earth follows the principles of law. Blood also belongs to one of the laws. To Zuyun, these may seem simple, but in fact what they contain is extremely difficult to understand. The ancestor of the Lin family continued, "Look at me, the reason why there is only one remnant soul left is because the blood in my body was dispersed by his 10,000 blood evil art. I had no choice but to throw away my body and finally hid in this heaven without a physical body. How can I fight against it? The 10,000 blood evil art is so magical." Zuyun said in shock, but was corrected by the ancestor of the Lin family, "It's not magic, it's evil. Otherwise, how could this be called evil?" "Brother Lin is talking about it." Zuyun took a deep breath and said, "Then the 10,000 blood formations in my body, will..." "That's not true, it's just that he will remain in your body forever, and will not grow or shrink. But if you encounter a monk who is higher than you in the future and practices the evil method of 10,000 blood, you will be controlled by him. So Brother Lin wants to use Purgatory Mountain to dissolve this 10,000 blood formation." "Yes, and no," the ancestor of the Lin family said with a twist of his pen, "I only know one of the 10,000 blood evil skills, but not the other. The 10,000 blood formations you mentioned, before I entered your body, naturally they are, you can't see it. So, if you want to prove that you haven't practiced the 10,000 blood evil art, you can only let me enter your body and see for myself. Or, just let Purgatory Mountain suppress it." The question returned to its original point. Zuyun smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Lin, didn't you say that these 3 blood formations would not have any impact?" "There is no impact, but the premise is that you have not deceived. For evil immortals, especially evil immortals who have practiced the 10,000 blood evil art, they would rather kill them by mistake than let them go." Speaking of this, a murderous intent flashed through that pen. Zuyun did not respond, but floated cross-legged in the void and said helplessly, "Brother Lin, you don't believe me so much." "It's not that I don't believe you," said the ancestor of the Lin family, "the 10,000 blood evil art can't tolerate a little joke. Whether you were injured by the 10,000 blood evil formation or you practiced the 10,000 blood evil art, as far as the human race is concerned, it's a big deal. You are practicing strange skills now, and you have learned my clan's divine eye technique. If you want to harm the human race, it will probably be the catastrophe of the human race. Do you think I will make fun of the entire human race?" Zuyun was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the ancestor of the Lin family would give him such a big label, so he said unwillingly, "Brother Lin, no matter how strong I am only in the stage of becoming a god. The last time I saw you, you were in the early stage of divine transformation. I haven't seen you for a long time, and you are already in the middle stage of divine transformation. If you continue at this level, I'm afraid it won't be long before you can attain enlightenment and ascend, and if you practice, I am afraid that I, the head of Purgatory Mountain, will be among the evil immortals of the 10,000 blood evil art, and the entire human race in the immortal world will be devastated." Zuyun took a deep breath and said, "Brother Lin, in fact, I can swear an oath of heaven, and the heaven here will limit me." "The way of heaven?" The ancestor of the Lin family said disdainfully, "The heavenly way of a yellow-level world star cannot limit the evil immortals who have achieved great evil achievements. You know, how many evil immortals are imprisoned in our Purgatory Mountain, and every one of them has a way to circumvent the restrictions of the heavenly way. A loophole in heaven." Zuyun was speechless, gritted his teeth and said, "Brother Lin, how can you trust me? I believe you. If I didn't believe you, would you still be able to stand here and talk to me safely?" Zuyun thought for a moment and said, "Senior, there are really 3 blood formations in my body, but I also have my own secrets, so I forgive you for not letting you enter my body to check." "Oh." The ancestor of the Lin family said in a tone of voice, "Even if you have a secret in your god transformation stage, it is not a secret to us immortals, and I may not be able to take it seriously. Brother Yexian, you have to know that you only if you let me check the inside of your body can you prove your innocence. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving the immortal Ye Yang face. After all, the matter of evil immortal is very important. Zuyun was silent, the chaos power he cultivated was nothing. But the key lies in Chaos Lotus. Huang Longshu told him that the Chaos Lotus was born in the chaos of the fairy world, and very few great powers have seen it in the fairy world. Even a single lotus seed can cause a tremor in a fairy land. Not to mention, there was a lotus heart as big as an egg on his lotus pod at this moment. The ancestor of the Lin family was worried that he would become an evil immortal, so why wasn't he worried that the ancestor of the Lin family would become greedy after entering his body? He will be the only one who will be irrecoverable by then. It seems that today's trip was in vain again. Zuyun raised his head and said in a deep voice, "Brother Lin, is there no other choice?" The ancestor of the Lin family shook his body and said, "No, you can only choose one of the two. Of course, seeing that you haven't resisted, that's why I didn't directly break into your Zifu with my fairy soul and kill you." Zuyun said bluntly, "Brother Lin, if you do that, it will probably do a lot of harm to you, right?" Of course, the ancestor of the Lin family did not shy away and said, "My immortal soul is originally a remnant soul. If I hurt your Zifu and Yuan Shen, I will immediately fall into a deep sleep, and I don't know how many years it will take to recover." Speaking of this, the ancestor of the Lin family paused and said, "Brother Yexian, time is running out, and there is no point in wasting it anymore. I will give you 3 breaths to make the final choice." Zuyun was silent again, but this time the ancestor of the Lin family kept his word and started counting down. 3, 2, 1. As soon as the words fell, countless mountains of purgatory came crashing down, pressing down on Zuyun. That unrivaled momentum left Zuyun with nowhere to dodge. This is the heavenly book space, the home of the ancestors of the Lin family. Zuyun never expected that the ancestor of the Lin family, who had been patiently talking to him before, would actually be unambiguous when he started to move. Shen-I technique. Purgatory Mountain came at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the top of his head was filled with darkness, and there was nowhere to hide. Zuyun had no choice but to purify the chaotic power on the lotus pod and focus it on his eyes. The light from the lotus heart flashed and flowed towards his eyes. At the moment of lightning and flint, Zuyun saw that there were many layers of purgatory mountains that could be avoided. Crack. After all, the ancestor of the Lin family doesn't have much soul power. He didn't use this method directly last time, which shows that it took a lot of effort on him. Wait until he is exhausted before making plans. Zuyun also plans to fight to the end. If he cannot find out the situation of Shenjingju, he may lose the opportunity to learn the law of 28 constellations. This is the easiest rule to learn that he feels is accessible. Continuing to practice the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra can indeed allow him to improve his realm step by step. But if you want to deal with the tribulation period or the 5 elements sect, it is still too slow. Only the law can make his strength make a qualitative leap. Zuyun knew this truth well, so he took the risk to meet the ancestor of the Lin family again. And the Divine Eye technique is his only reliance now. What a good boy, you actually used my magical power from Purgatory Mountain to deal with Purgatory Mountain. The ancestor of the Lin family praised lightly, then turned his pen and started writing in the void. Sleepy. The word trap took shape and turned into a net that shrouded Zuyun in the gaps between the mountains. Zuyun had also learned the heavenly talisman, so he naturally knew how powerful the trapped characters were. He moved his mind slightly, stretched out his finger to use a pen, and also wrote a word. But this time, he still used the purified chaos power. It's Xian Li. Trapped and broken are opposites. The 2 runes were intertwined and exploded immediately. Boom. The space shook, and several nearby purgatory mountains were immediately blown to pieces, and a vacuum appeared all around. Zuyun suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind and continued to write one character without hesitation. Destroy. The words annihilation formed into patterns and emerged from the mountains. In an instant, the mountains disappeared without a trace. Young man, you have a lot of understanding, and you actually thought of using this method to deal with the phantom of Purgatory Mountain. The ancestor of the Lin family couldn't help but be shocked, because Zuyun dealt with his weakness at this time perfectly. He has no body, and all these methods are driven by the power of the immortal soul. It will take a long time to recover after using a little bit. After Zuyun left last time, it took him so long to get ready. Unexpectedly, Zuyun not only was not scared by him, but also thought of a countermeasure. Fight a war of attrition. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have taught you the secret of the heavenly talisman. The ancestor of the Lin family felt that something was not good, and kept turning his pen. He no longer continued to draw the sky talisman, but controlled the remaining Purgatory Mountain to press towards Zuyun. This Purgatory Mountain has no real lethality, only suppressive power. In fact, Zuyun had no fear of his life at all. Because the ancestor of the Lin family also knew that Zuyun was his only hope of getting out of the Tianfu space alive. If Zuyun dies, then he can only live in this space forever and will never be able to make a difference. But obviously, he seems to have the upper hand now, but the final result will make him weak. While muttering in his mouth, Zuyun's hands were filled with heavenly talismans, and the character's annihilation turned into talismans one by one and penetrated into the mountains. Boy, I don't believe you are so capable of purifying the power of chaos. The ancestor of the Lin family cursed secretly in his heart, and kept using the power of the immortal soul to control the mountains and press them towards Zuyun. But after a long time, he realized that everything he had done was useless and he was almost exhausted, but Zuyun only showed a little fatigue on his face. Damn, it was a miscalculation. I thought this kid had accepted his fate, but I didn't expect that he could gather so much immortal power. No, you can't take risks with the 10,000 blood evil art. I risk my life. Even if I kill the wrong person, I still have to do it. Suppress you here. The ancestor of the Lin family shouted angrily in his heart, and all the power of the immortal soul came out. He would rather die because the power of the immortal soul is exhausted, and the immortal soul will fly away, but he would rather let Zuyun stay here. Boom. The ancestor of the Lin family's pen exploded as a result, turning into black dots of nothingness and shooting towards Zuyun, passing through the gaps in the mountains and hitting Zuyun. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1127. Brother Lin, what are you doing? Zuyun exclaimed when he saw this scene. Under the divine eye technique, countless black spots fell into his eyes. But the speed was so fast that he could hardly react. Before he could dodge, countless blood flowers appeared on Zuyun's body. Puff. 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 Blood splattered, and blood was everywhere in the space of the heavenly book. Zuyun's body could not withstand the desperate attack of the Lin family ancestor. He, brother Yexian, I'm sorry. This was the last sentence left by the Lin family ancestor. Zuyun was seriously injured, how could he move? Immediately, he was suppressed by the mountains and trapped in the void. It's over. Zuyun was stunned. Not only could he not move, but the chaotic force in his body was also suppressed. A mysterious force came down from the mountains and entered his body, bending the chaotic force. Brother Lin, Brother Lin. After Zuyun was suppressed, the void returned to calm. After the voice of the Lin family ancestor disappeared, there was no more sound. Zuyun didn't know that the Lin family ancestor fell into a coma again, and he didn't know when he would wake up. And Zuyun didn't know when he could get out. This is really over. With no one responding, Zuyun's mind was completely empty. Unexpectedly, he was still in trouble. I don't know what medicine the Lin family ancestor took wrongly. If you have anything to do, go to the evil immortal of the 10,000 blood evil art. You use such full force on me. Zuyun really didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he also knew that his life was safe. He just wanted to get out. It was estimated that he could only let the Purgatory Mountains dissolve the 10,000 blood formations in his body. What a lunatic. Zuyun exhaled a breath of turbid air, cursed in his heart, and gradually accepted the fact, allowing the power of the Purgatory Mountains to slowly wander in his body. In the netherworld, the wood incarnation kept flashing out of the ancient trees, but without a specific target, he could only flee aimlessly. Until deep in the dark, where few people were, he found a tree hole on the top of an ancient tree. The space in the tree hole was not small, and it could accommodate several people. The wood incarnation carefully sensed and found traces of human life here. However, at this time, there was no one in the tree hole. He pondered for a moment, then flashed away, and soon stood in the tree hole space. It is obvious that a female cultivator lives here. The wood incarnation took a look and saw that the tree hole was arranged as a residence. Although it was small and simple, it had tables, chairs, stools, and beds. The tree hole was far away from the ground, and there was hay underneath, which was extremely dry. At this height, it could also receive sunlight. If it were not for the pure wood spirit power of this incarnation and the use of the wood escape technique, it might not be discovered. I wonder if it's the demon lord Ting Feng. The wood incarnation guessed. From what he saw, Nangong Ting Feng had no relatives after arriving in the Nine Netherworld, and Feng Qingyang and Zhou Xianxia had both left. And with her personality, it seems unlikely that she would join the demon sect. This place and this scene, there is a possibility that she is here. There is not much dust at the bottom of the cave, and the people who live here should have left not long ago. The wood incarnation thought about it and decided to stay here and wait and see for a while. With the thought, he escaped into the tree. Half an hour later, the sky gradually darkened, and there were subtle footsteps under the tree. Very light, but it shocked the wood incarnation. The owner of this tree hole is back. Could it be the demon lord Ting Feng? The wood incarnation cheered up, completely suppressed his breath, and looked in the direction where the sound came from. Sure enough, a moment later, a tired body walked towards the side with heavy steps. After walking to the side of the tree, the wood incarnation recognized it at a glance. It was indeed Nangong Ting Feng. In fact, his guess was quite accurate. In the wilderness of the Nine Netherworld, apart from Nangong Ting Feng, there were only some casual cultivators. But the Ascension secret realm was about to open, and most casual cultivators went to the outer world to look for natural treasures to make final preparations. Naturally, only Nangong Ting Feng stayed here. However, Nangong Ting Feng's mental state was not very good at this time. She was breathing rapidly and her spiritual power was a little disordered, which surprised Mu Huaxin. Just when he was about to escape into the tree hole and wait for Nangong Ting Feng to come up, he didn't expect that several figures suddenly walked out of the darkness. He, little girl, I didn't expect you to hide here. An obscene laugh came from behind a tree, and then three figures walked out. These three people wore the same black tights, but they all had a small half-moon-shaped tumor on their foreheads. Moon sect. Nangong Ting Feng came back to his senses in fear, turned around and trembled all over, and then pressed his back tightly against the tree trunk. The wood avatar was hiding in this tree. Moon Demon Sect? Zhongfeng seemed to be a member of the Moon Demon Sect back then. The wood avatar's memory was connected to Zuyun's. Zhongfeng, the head of the Pet Beast Pavilion, also intended to provoke a war between the righteous and the evil. Later, he begged Zuyun to spare him before he died. Unfortunately, Zuyun didn't give him a chance at all. I didn't expect that there would be news about the Moon Demon Sect here. Looking at the expressions and attitudes of these three people, they are not good people at all. Little girl, the leader said with a lewd smile, living alone in this netherworld, aren't you afraid of being disturbed by demon beasts? Otherwise, come back to the Demon Moon Sect with us, we will take care of you, and you will soon be able to break through the spiritual transformation stage. Nangong Tingfeng put her hands on her waist, her expression was extremely vigilant, but the panic on her face still betrayed her. Because she is only in the nascent soul stage. Don't come over, otherwise. Otherwise what? Another demon cultivator stood up, he sneered softly, and the tumor on his forehead actually glowed black. Spiritual transformation stage. These three people are all in the spiritual transformation stage. This made Muse Incarnation a little afraid to move for a while. It was just an incarnation, even if the main body was in the middle stage of the spiritual transformation, he only had half of Zhu Yun's strength. The realm was still the spiritual transformation stage, but it was still a bit difficult to fight 1 against 3 and save Nangong Tingfeng. While Mu Huaxin was thinking about countermeasures, the 3 Huashan stage masters were slowly approaching. The third person said, "Little girl, you have been circling outside our Moyo sect for several times. What do you think? To be honest, it is hard to say whether the 3 of us brothers will be satisfied with you." He, third elder, he is looking for a perfect husband. I just don't know that we have 3 perfect husbands. Ha ha ha, little girl, why don't you choose one from the 3 of us? I guarantee that the other 2 brothers will not care. The 3 of them said obscene words, as if they had Nangong Tingfeng in their hands. The 3 of them had just broken through from the nascent soul stage to the Huashan stage, so they did not go to participate in the ascension platform, so they were able to stay in the Moyo sect. They had just broken through, and their excitement was beyond words. They relaxed and saw Nangong Tingfeng again, and they were immediately shocked by her beauty. Especially since Nangong Tingfeng had given birth to a son, her charm was completely different from that of an ordinary female cultivator, so they became lustful and followed Nangong Fengting all the way. After confirming that she was just a casual cultivator without any backing, why would they have any scruples? Don't even think about it. Nangong Tingfeng stretched out her right hand in her arms and couldn't help but clench her life magic weapon, which was also a magic seal, made by Nangong Yin himself. Although she was not a virgin, she was also chaste by nature and would never commit herself to the 3 people in front of her. But her realm was not enough, so she had no choice but to die to keep her innocence. Little girl, you've been slept with by others, so what's wrong with you sleeping with the 3 of us brothers? If you serve us well, we can give you some elixirs to help you practice. Yes, we are in the God transformation stage. You can serve 3 God transformation stages together. Not to mention the 9 netherworld, no one in the entire spiritual world can enjoy it like this, right? Ha ha ha, yes, little girl, letting you serve is a sign of respect for you. When we concentrate on practicing, even if you come to our door, we may not undress. The tree hole above is your residence, right? It's a good place. I have never tried to do things in the dense forest of the 9 netherworld. The 3 people gradually approached, and their words became more and more explicit. Nangong Tingfeng had no choice. When he was about to crush the magic seal and prepare for self-destruction, a familiar voice suddenly came to his ears. Demon Lord Tingfeng, separate them. This was naturally the voice of the wood incarnation. And his voice and tone were exactly the same as Zhu Yun's. Suddenly, she was stunned. Little girl, hurry up, do you want to do it under this tree? Another person urged. Demon Lord Tingfeng, this is the only way. The wood incarnation urged again, and Nangong Tingfeng finally came back to her senses. She was a figure in the Yasha realm of the Eastern Fan realm. She dared to stop the attack of the Peepa realm alone. Now it was just 3 people who wanted to do something wrong. The realms of the 3 seniors are too high. I am afraid that my body can't bear it. Can you, come one by one? Nangong Tingfeng immediately changed the subject, trying to refuse but also welcoming. This change made the 3 people very happy. If Nangong Tingfeng resisted, it would be a lot less fun. They just broke through the transformation of the gods, just wanting to come out to have some fun, and then concentrate on practicing, so that they can do a lot when the secret realm of ascension is opened. Almost all the cultivators knew about the dramatic changes in the spiritual world. There was a lot of work to be done. They might be able to gain a reputation after practicing hard. They might even be able to get ahead of others and practice to a higher level as much as possible. In this way, they would be in a good mood, thinking about having fun, and venting the joy of thousands of years of hard practice and breaking through the spirit transformation stage. Seeing that Nangong Tingfeng, this stunning beauty, was so good, how could they hold back? I'll go first, you guys take turns. The demon cultivator who spoke first took the initiative to speak, and the two people behind him were envious. There was nothing they could do, because he was the eldest brother. Brother, hurry up, don't make us wait too long. The elder brother snorted disdainfully, why, can this be quick? You guys just watch below, I'll let you guys have your turn after I've had enough fun. By the way, you guys should also prepare some pills, in case the little girl can't bear it, you won't be able to enjoy it. While speaking, Nangong Tingfeng had already flown up to the tree hole and waved to Yingying below, Senior, come up quickly. He, here I come. The incarnation period no longer gave any orders, turned around and laughed obscenely, and flew into the tree hole. But just as he took off his shirt, the green light in the tree hole surged, and before he could react, the green light penetrated his body completely. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1128. Nangong Tingfeng couldn't see Mu's movements clearly at all, but as the body in the divine transformation stage quietly fell to the ground, she didn't have time to exclaim, so she leaned down and began to moan. She is a demon cultivator, and she will not stick to trivial matters in order to survive. Mujiawa's heart was filled with confusion, and he turned around again and casually laid down a ban, encompassing the entire tree hole. The wood spirit power he used was perfectly combined with the primitive ancient tree. When the sound could not be transmitted outside, the wood incarnation spoke, Tingfeng Demon Lord, why do you? Nangong Tingfeng smiled miserably. He no longer looked so charming, but he got up as if nothing had happened. Although Zuyun's realm is higher than hers, in her eyes, he is still the junior he was back then. It's hard to say enough, Zuyun, thank you so much for saving my life. The wooden incarnation waved his hands hurriedly, but said seriously, listen to Lord Wind Demon, let me make a long story short. I am just an avatar now. Although I am also in the state of becoming a god, it is extremely difficult to fight one against two. Wait until the two of them are killed one after another. Kill, let's get down to business. Nangong Tingfeng was not pretentious. She put away her surprise at Zuyun's incarnation and nodded, so tell me, what's next? The wooden incarnation pondered for a moment and said, I used the escape technique to hide in the tree and see clearly. If you and I can lure another person up and kill them, then there will be only one god incarnation demon cultivator left. I will deal with it more relaxed. Come to think of it, you have a plan in mind, right? Yes, Mu turned his finger into a pen, gathered his spiritual power and began to draw talismans out of thin air. Soon a talisman took shape, and turned into talisman patterns again and flew to Zuyun's face. Change the world. In an instant, Zuyun transformed into the god-turned-demon cultivator lying on the ground. Nangong Tingfeng immediately understood and said, this will distract him, and then you can directly make a sneak attack. Zuyun's sword energy is released, and it has been proven that it can directly kill the demon cultivator. They only need one breath, and that's enough. When the time comes, kill them under the tree. Tingfeng Demon Lord, I'm offended. The tree hole is not big. If the body of the demon cultivator is left at this moment, it will be too conspicuous. If another demon cultivator is brought up, it will definitely arouse alarm. The wooden incarnation can only move it to the corner. After doing all this, Zuyun stepped forward, removed the restriction with one hand, and put his other hand around Nangong Tingfeng's waist. Nangong Tingfeng's cheeks were slightly hot, but he still recited the magic formula silently, took off all his clothes, leaving only a pair of obscene clothes, and moaned again, "Senior, it will be difficult for this little girl to deal with you alone. If there is another person, the little girl is afraid that she won't be able to greet her." Ha ha ha, Mu Genhua imitated the demon cultivator's tone and smiled evilly, and said loudly on purpose, "Who can come up and enjoy it with me again?" Under the tree, the two demon cultivators looked at each other, and one of them said, "Third brother, it should be me in the order, right? You take the elixir, and if I call you later, you can come up and feed that little girl. Take it, lest she dies and you have nothing to play with." The third elder looked bitter, but there was nothing he could do. Who made him the weakest? But in my heart, I also secretly vowed that after this incident is over, I must concentrate on practicing and strive to surpass them. If something good happens then, why don't you let yourself take the first turn? After the second elder gave out the elixir, he immediately jumped up and stepped into the tree hole. Nangong Tingfeng's looming body and her skin as solid as white jade made his blood boil, and with Mu's back behind him to block him, it made him want to vent his lust quickly. "Brother, I'm here." He forced himself to calm down. Since it was the great elder who called him up, he still needed to exercise some restraint to avoid causing displeasure. After all, these two people had never experienced this before. What a thrill! Under such circumstances, how could he notice that there was a corpse in the corner of the tree hole and the faint smell of blood in the air? He even didn't notice that Mu Jianying held the magic formula in his hand and placed a restriction again. "Ha ha ha, just come here, you and I, one behind the other, enjoy it?" Mu Jiahua laughed wildly and asked the second elder to come over. This made him overjoyed and ran over like an evil tiger pouncing on its prey. Just when his hand was about to touch the bumpy body, a green light came towards him, diagonally downwards, and passed through his lower abdomen. Pain. Severe pain. What followed was a collapse of spiritual power, spurting out from the blood hole. The lewd smile on his face solidified. And at this moment, he saw the disgust on Nangong Tingfeng's face and the contempt on his elder brother's face. "Brother, what are you? I'm not your big brother." Mu Jiahua laughed loudly, stretched out his hand and stroked his face, and immediately revealed his original face, and said sarcastically, "The word sex has a knife on its head. I didn't expect that Tang Tang, who is in the stage of transforming into gods, still doesn't understand this truth." The wooden incarnation put two fingers together and drew a sword energy across the necks of the two elders. The bodies are separated. "Tingfeng Demon Lord, I'm offended." Mu Jiahua repeated again. He had just held Nangong Tingfeng in his arms and almost lost control. With Wen Ruan and Xianxia in his arms, even these three demon cultivators who transformed into gods were trying to do evil things. This is considered to be a good enough concentration for Mu Jiahua. Nangong Tingfeng shook his head, casually put some clothes on himself, and said lightly, "This is for survival, it's nothing. But Zuyun, just don't let my husband-in-law know about it in the future. He is small-minded, and it is inevitable that there will be suspicion." Mu Jiahua smiled bitterly and said, "How dare I say that? It's not that she's afraid of Feng and he, it's just that she's now on good terms with Feng Qingyang. If he knows that she has a physical relationship with his mother, he didn't dare to think about it. Let's get down to business. Do you plan to kill the last remaining person?" Nangong Tingfeng buttoned up his clothes, lowered his head and spoke softly. "Well, it can only be killed by force. If you are just an early stage god, it will not be difficult to deal with it. However, if you can attack by surprise, that would be great." Then let's bring him up. No, Mujiawa shook his head and said, I have disguised myself as the Great Elder and lured someone here. We don't know what he is thinking. One response to two is already a bit incomprehensible, but if one responds to three, this. Nangong Tingfeng's face turned red suddenly. It was really unimaginable that one woman was serving three men. It may actually make the other party suspicious. How about, Mujiawa said this time, how about we distract him? Scare. Nangong Tingfeng was puzzled. Well, Mujiawa grabbed the two corpses with both hands and said, after I lifted the restriction, I threw the two corpses directly. He must not know what happened and lost his position. Like this, Nangong Tingfeng smiled slightly, pointing at the Great Elder's body and said, I'll take this one, you can take the body and the head respectively, and then we'll throw them down together. Wonderful. Mu's eyes lit up. Although two corpses would have an effect at the same time, they would definitely not have as much of an impact as separating the corpses. That's it? He threw the body of the first elder to Nangong Tingfeng, and then he held the second elder's head in one hand and his body in the other. I'll throw your head first. Mujiawa quietly poked his head out of the tree hole, and immediately saw the third elder stomping back and forth under the tree, looking dissatisfied with his desires. He couldn't use the Divine Eye technique, he could only use the Void-Breaking Spirit Eye technique, but this was completely enough. After taking aim, he threw his head into the arms of the third elder. In the blink of an eye, you get what you want. What? The third elder looked up at the tree hole with a surprised look, but after throwing the wooden incarnation, he had already retracted his head. But inside the tree hole, Nangong Tingfeng was still moaning sweetly. The third elder then lowered his head and looked at his hands, and suddenly exclaimed, Brother! This scream sounded, and Nangong Tingfeng and Mu Shijia smashed the two corpses at the third elder almost at the same time. Hearing the sound of wind coming, the third elder looked up again and saw two black shadows hitting his head. When he looked carefully, he saw that it was his two brothers and he couldn't help being stunned. Why didn't you go sleep with a nascent soul female cultivator? Why did you die while sleeping? Big brother, second brother. He had lost all control and subconsciously reached out to pick up the corpse, but both Mu and Nangong Tingfeng used their spiritual power, and the corpse was like a spiritual weapon that had been thrown at it. By the time he was able to catch it and take off his strength, Mu Incarnation's killing move had already arrived. The same sword energy was released, and the green light hid behind the two corpses and shot toward the third elder's belly. Not good. This time, he finally realized that the two lives were not caused by sleeping out, but by an ambush. There is someone hiding in that tree hole. Court death. The third elder was furious and quickly threw away the two corpses. While dodging the sword energy, the half-moon sarcoma on his forehead suddenly released demonic energy and rushed towards the sword light. Bang! Black and green lights intersect, and dust and smoke immediately rise from the ground. The surrounding ancient trees continue to sway and withered leaves fly. Snort. Wooden transformation snorted softly, stretched out his finger as a pen, and drew a heavenly talisman from a high position. Sleepy. The talisman took shape and turned into a heavenly net, enveloping the three elders. He is the incarnation of the middle stage of divine transformation, while the opponent is the demon cultivator who has just entered the early stage of divine transformation. In this round, the fight is neck and neck. Although Mujiawa and Nangong Tingfeng were designed to attack each other, they were relatively far away from each other. The sudden attack by the sword energy did not cause effective damage, but the opponent still reacted. But there was only one opponent, and Mujiawa was not afraid at all. At this time, he had the upper hand and grabbed the opportunity. He was confident that he would beat the opponent to death with random punches. A heavenly talisman flew away, and Mu Incarnation drew another heavenly talisman with his backhand. Break. The rune pattern mixed with the sobs of the sinister wind rushed towards the hurried third elder. Seeing the rune enter the body, the three elders shouted loudly, and the Banyu sarcoma burst into light again, and a brilliance as thick as an ancient tree greeted the rune. Boom! You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1129. Nangong Tingfen was watching the show above the tree hole. Even if she was just a little bit close to entering this kind of fight during the transformation period, she couldn't get into it at this time. This is the hurdle between nascent soul and transformation god. What separates this hurdle is little heavenly tribulation. Such a shock almost caused Nangong Tingfen to fall from the tree hole. In addition to being frightened, she dared not watch the excitement anymore and hurriedly hid in the tree hole. At the same time, Muhwashan was also caught off guard. The half-moon light was strange and erratic, appearing and disappearing, bright and dark, making it difficult to guard against. After the broken character element didn't work, Mu Incarnation decided to avoid the edge for the time being. But who would have thought that in a rage, the third elder took advantage of the situation and bullied him. The brilliance danced wildly, like moonlight shining all over the ground. It didn't look like the magical power of a demon cultivator. Mu Hua was shocked, but also felt lucky for his caution. Not to mention 1 against 3, even if there is one person alive and they join forces to deal with him, he can't escape such brilliance. Where the brilliance shrouded the ancient trees, smoke grew, the ground cracked, and countless dead leaves began to emit little sparks. This shows how much energy is contained in this brilliance. The war situation showed signs of being one-sided. Because the wood avatar mainly has wood attributes, it is not good at attacking. Even if his sword energy is released, it has no sharpness, let alone killing. With stability, Mujia was retreating steadily. But if he retreats further and the third elder takes action against Nangong Tingfen, then everything he has done will be in vain. Nothing can happen to Lord Tingfen demon, otherwise how can I explain to Xiu'er? Mujiawa felt a little anxious in his heart, and no longer retreated blindly, but took up the steps of the immortality technique to deal with the three elders. Your body skills are pretty good, but it's a pity that where the brilliance reaches, you can't escape. The third elder snorted coldly, and the brilliance on his forehead became even brighter, obviously he had tried his best. In desperation, seeing that he could not use his dexterous body to dodge, the wooden incarnation had no choice but to retreat another half-mile. Ha ha ha, let's see where you can retreat to. The third elder stepped forward, and with his hands like two dragons playing with pearls, he touched his forehead with his first hand, and unexpectedly took out 2 balls of brilliance from the light pillar. Then, he combined the 2 balls of light into one, and kneaded them to form a weird lightsaber. You used to sneak attack on me with your sword skills. How about I show you my Demon Moon sword skills from the Demon Moon sect? After the words fell, the third elder's figure flashed forward, and he stood up and stabbed through the air. But the next moment, the sword of brilliance was already pointed directly at the eyebrows of Muji Unying. So fast. Muhua concentrated his mind and body, and quickly used the wood escape technique, and managed to escape into an ancient tree. Huh. The wood escape technique is completely different from the thunder escape Ju and teleportation. This is an escape technique that completely relies on trees. The figure didn't disappear, but hid in the tree. The third elder had never seen such a mysterious escape technique before. Seeing that there was no one around, he couldn't help but be extremely surprised. You're pretty good at running away. No wonder you dare to kill the 2 of us secretly. But don't think that this elder can't do anything to you. The third elder, who was gradually gaining the upper hand, felt extremely clear in his mind. Since the other party used Nangong Tingfeng as bait to attack and kill his two brothers, this meant that Nangong Tingfeng was extremely important to him. As long as I hold him hostage, how can he not show up? Having said that, the third elder no longer stayed where he was, but turned back and teleported towards the tree hole. No, he really wants to take action against Wind Demon Lord. Muhua was shocked. He didn't expect that the other party would find his weakness right away. What should he do? It would be great if the main body is here. I can recall the main body. Even 10 early stages of transformation are not enough to fight. Right now, I am restricted by the wood spirit orb and cannot use many magical powers. I can't even use the Chaos Fist. Even if I use it, the Chaos Palm only has its own form. Without the use of Chaos Power, the wood spirit power cannot produce the corresponding effect. Muhua's body and mind were in a panic, and he used the wood escape technique to get out of the ancient tree and then into another tree. Without any reservation, the speed was not slow. After a while, he was one step ahead and appeared in the tree hole. Nangong Tingfeng didn't know how the battle would turn out yet, and when he was worried, the wooden incarnation came quietly. Tingfeng Demon Lord, this stage of transformation into gods is a bit difficult to deal with. I'll take you away first. Before Nangong Tingfeng could respond, Mujiwa grabbed Nangong Tingfeng's clothes and flew towards the sky. Are you one step ahead of me? The third elder arrived in a state of dismay. Looking at Muji Unying and Nangong Tingfeng going away, he directly threw the sword of glory in his hand. Call out. The sound of breaking through the air sounded, and the brilliance was extremely fast, pointing directly at the back of the wood incarnation. Zuyun, be careful. Nangong Tingfeng was being pulled by Mu incarnation and was facing the rear. He immediately saw the brilliance coming and couldn't help but scream. But she also knew very well that the opponent's realm was not weak, and if she waited until the wood avatar reacted, it would probably be too late. This brilliance looks holy, but it is extremely weird. She is also a demon cultivator, so she can feel the awe-inspiring demonic energy in it. It is okay if it is hidden, but if it does happen, it will be out of control. Nangong Tingfeng knew that if Mujiajia died or was injured, she would be the next to die. The two of them are grasshoppers tied to the same rope. Heaven-shaking seal. Nangong Tingfeng didn't hesitate, and with a thought, he directly sacrificed his natal magic weapon. I saw black smoke billowing from her waist, quickly covering the two of them. Listen to the Wind Demon Lord, no. Mujiawa immediately guessed what Nangong Tingfeng was thinking and quickly shouted to stop him, but it was already too late. I saw a darker light flashing through the black smoke, rushing out of the black smoke and facing the sword of glory. Boom! There was a loud sound, and Nangong Tingfeng immediately spat out a blood arrow, and then he fell into a coma. The heaven-turning seal is a demonic seal, square in shape, and the moment it comes out, it is filled with demonic energy. But after all, she is only in the nascent soul stage. How can she match the magical power of the soul transformation stage? Even if the third elder did not use all his strength, this sword of brilliance was less than 1 in 10, but it was not something she could hold. The heaven-turning seal shattered into powder, but as a result, the brilliance spread out in all directions, giving the wood avatar a chance to breathe. Listen to Lord Feng Mo, why are you doing this? The wood incarnation gnashes its teeth and cuts its implements. Among monks, the higher the realm, the greater the backlash that will be suffered if the magic weapon, or spiritual weapon that destroys the connection between the mind and the mind is destroyed. Like this heaven-shaking seal, which is closely connected with Nangong Tingfeng and has been refined by her blood since she was born. The injuries caused directly put Nangong Tingfeng's life hanging by a thread. But originally, it was not easy for Wood Avatar to kill the opponent, but he wanted to escape. But it's not difficult. As a result, he didn't pay attention to Nangong Tingfeng for a moment, and instead let her get a fatal blow. At this moment, Mujiajia didn't get any response. Obviously, there was no chance to save Nangong Tingfeng at the moment. In desperation, Mu Incarnation had no choice but to escape. As long as we find the true body. Wooden Avatar gritted his teeth, and then ran wildly along the original path. The destruction of the lightsaber formed by two balls of brilliance had an impact on the third elder. His mind was shaken and the demon soul was also slightly uncomfortable. By the time he came to his senses, Mu Jianying had already taken Nangong Tingfeng away. Humph, do you want to run? It's too late. If Mu transformed into a single person and used that mysterious escape technique, the three elders would think that they would not be able to catch up. But now dragging the unconscious Nangong Tingfeng, the third elder felt that he couldn't escape at all. After taking a breath, the third elder also chased after him with all his strength. He locked his chi machine on Nangong Tingfeng. Unless Mu stopped escaping and broke his chi machine, he could find it anywhere in the world. But with the lessons learned from the two brothers who were killed first, the third elder still had a cautious mind. He touched the half-moon sarcoma on his forehead and muttered a few words in a low voice before he concentrated on chasing the two of them. Somewhere in the Nine Netherlands, several gods in stage stood up one after another. Someone actually killed our people from the Demon Moon sect. This move is a declaration of war with us. The speaker was an old man. His life is approaching, so he has been serving as an elder in the sect. His talents were limited, and his achievements in life ended there. I thought I would spend my life in the Demon Moon sect doing nothing, but I didn't expect that the incident at the immortal stage would turn the entire spiritual world around. He didn't even have a chance to go to the immortal platform, but the result was that he was allowed to take charge of the Demon Moon sect. Because all the monks above the divine transformation stage, including the master of the Demon Moon sect, died in the immortal ascension platform. Under this situation, the tribulation transmitting monks in the sect went into seclusion and did not care about the sect's affairs. He, the old man with the highest level and the strongest strength, became the sect leader. In the land of Juyu, the number of sect forces in the god transformation stage can be counted on one hand. It seems that he is at the peak of the late stage of divine transformation. With such strength, no one in Juyu land dares to offend him. After all, this is a world where strength is respected. Sect Master, something happened to the three elders who just survived the minor tribulation and came out of seclusion to stabilize their realm. A nascent soul stage stood up and said with great respect. That's right, the leader of the Moyo sect said solemnly, I want to see who dares to offend our Moyo sect. After that, he took out a half-moon shaped scimitar from his arms. After muttering something in his mouth, the half-moon scimitar also glowed with brilliance. The whole hall suddenly became dark, and I couldn't see even my fingers. Only this half-moon scimitar is like a half-moon hanging in the night sky. All nascent soul stages, follow me. The Demon Moon sect leader threw the half-moon scimitar. The scimitar seemed to have a spirit, floated 10 feet above the ground, and rushed out of the hall. This is one of the unique secret techniques of the Demon Moon sect, used to find people. Previously, the third elder used the power of the demonic moon to pass the message back, but the message was brief, only mentioning that 2 people were dead and needed urgent support. The Demon Moon sect finally had 3 gods in the stage of becoming gods, and they could become a force in this Juyu land. However, they suddenly lost 2 people. How could the Demon Moon sect not be angry? The reason why they brought nascent soul with them was to allow them to observe the battles between the stages of transforming into gods, so that they could gain some insights and realize the great truth, thereby directly triggering the small heavenly tribulation and achieving the transformation into gods. At the same time, Mujiwa took Nangong Tingfeng and finally discovered a thorny problem. Returning to the starting point of separation from his true body, he unexpectedly found that he could not sense Zhu Yun's existence no matter what. Behind him, the 3 elders were chasing after him. In front of him, He also discovered a terrifying aura that was at the peak of the late stage of divine transformation. The most important thing is that this aura is exactly the same as the demonic moon aura in the third elder. There is a wolf in front of us and a tiger behind us. What should we do? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1130. If he is alone, the wood incarnation can directly choose a tree to escape, and no one can find it. But right now, Nangong Tingfeng, who is holding Nangong Tingfeng in his arms, has no place to hide even if he wants to. Attacked from two sides, one of the auras is so strong, it is very likely that it is the peak of the late stage of divine transformation. It is impossible to escape, we can only hold our breath and take a look. Mujiawa gritted his teeth. In this situation, he could only seek self-protection, but he must also do his best to protect Nangong Tingfeng. He stretched out his finger as a pen and drew a breathing charm. Fortunately, the talisman used in this kind of assistance has no special requirements for the properties of spiritual power. The wood incarnation uses wood spiritual power as its ink. In the primitive dense forest of the Nine Netherlands, the breath-gathering talisman can be emitted through the ancient trees. The wood spiritual power that came out merged together. After completely suppressing Nangong Tingfeng's aura, Mu transformed himself and buried Nangong Tingfeng under the pile of fallen leaves under an ancient tree. He himself escaped into the ancient tree and grew taller. The ground breathed out. Never mind, I can't figure out where the body has gone. Could it have entered the immortal mansion? According to my own habits, I will either come out soon or leave a message. But there is no information at the moment. Apparently something happened in the immortal mansion. Mujiawa thought about it again and felt that it was very possible. If the real body is dead, then this incarnation is the only hope if you want to live. It seems that when things happen here, we have to find a place to hide and practice. It seems that it is not a good thing that the Great Universe Glazed Mirror and the Great Universe Glazed Mirror are so separated. There is no trace of them anywhere. While Mujiawa was lamenting in his heart, the three elders and the master of Moyo sect also gathered here. Where are the people? The sullen voice sounded beside the ancient tree and reached the ears of Mujiyi. Sect master, I followed his aura all the way, but I didn't find it. The third elder was also extremely surprised. His magic moon brilliance left a vitality on Nangong Tingfeng's body, but he didn't expect that the breath-condensing talisman could completely erase this energy. Mujiaran didn't know the reason. If he were in other places, there really would be nowhere to hide. Although the land of Juyu is a land of demons and has strong demonic aura, no matter what, the rich vitality here comes from the wood spiritual power emitted by the trees. For a long time, the demon moon's aura was not much, and it was under the breath-gathering charm that Nangong Tingfeng was not discovered. Please tell me in detail what happened before. Why did the three of you come out of seclusion, and two of them died? The sect leader shouted in a deep voice. Back to the sect master, it's a long story. The third elder had already thought it through on the way here. If he told them directly, he might not be able to bear the blame, so he made up the identities of Nangong Tingfeng and Mujiajia. You mean, they came here from the outer world to target our demon moon sect? When the sect leader heard this, he frowned. In his latest plan, he really wants to go to Tianweishan to search for some heavenly materials and earthly treasures. After the incident at the Immortal platform, the spiritual world was completely reshuffled, and all rules and order were disrupted. Especially for the circulation of some elixir resources, there are no specialized traders, brokers, and treasure hunters. If you want something specific, most of them have to go to the place of origin to find it. For example, they can only go there in person for the elixir that is unique to Tianweishan. Similarly, the monks from Tianweishan also need to come to Juyu land in person. It's very possible. After all, our demon moon sect has a unique advantage in the secret realm of immortal ascension. People in Tianwei may be afraid that we will compete for more resources, so they came up with this strategy. Our Demon Moon sect has always kept a low profile, whether it is the former sect master or the elders and seniors who went to the immortal stage. The sect leader frowned. He was originally just a godlike person waiting for death, far away from the center of power. However, he was the strongest among the sect, so he became the sect leader. He said he knew a lot, but there were too many secret things that he didn't know clearly. He really didn't know which sect force Mou sect had an inextricable hatred with. Sect master, those sect forces in Tianwei are not good people. Maybe they simply learned that we have 3 more gods in the stage of transformation. After entering the Ascension secret realm, they will compete for more resources and quickly spread in the Juyu land. Development, 1 family alone. The third elder continued to steer the topic in this direction, and it obviously had an effect. Indeed, according to the records in the sect's classics and widely known rumors in the spiritual world, it is always dark in the secret realm of Xianxia, and all the light comes from a blood moon in the night sky. Let me think about it, it seemed like it was inside the sect back then. There is a rumor that our Demon Moon sect can control the power of the blood moon, perhaps, that's why they designed it this way. The more the sect leader talked, the angrier he became. Originally, he did not have much longevity, and even if he became the sect master, it would be extremely difficult to break through to the latter realm. Because most of the sect's resources are on those strong and powerful people. With the destruction of the immortal platform, they were completely destroyed by the immortal light, leaving nothing behind at all. In other words, all the major sects in the spiritual world are very poor now. Except for the 5 Elements sect who did not participate in the Xianxia terrace. But their losses are still the biggest. The secret realm of Xianxia has become the only opportunity for Moyo sect master to increase his lifespan, or use the heavenly materials and earthly treasures captured there to break through to the void refining stage. But now, 2 of the 3 gods have died, leaving only himself and the third elder in front of him. How can you not be angry? The problem is, we can't find anyone now. He took a deep breath and looked around while forcing himself to control the anger in his heart. Indirectly ruining his immortal fate, this is also a mortal enemy. Sect Master, the third elder breathed a sigh of relief and said, the man and the woman escaped like this, obviously their escape skills are extraordinary. Perhaps, it was the work of the spirit escape sect in Tianwei. While I was fighting with the god transformation stage, that person is obviously in the middle stage of becoming a god, but his combat power is not as good as mine in the early stage. And this is in line with the characteristics of Lingdun sect. I know the spirit escape sect, the sect leader said with a glimmer of light in his eyes. They all specialize in a kind of escape technique and believe in a method of cultivating immortals that is popular all over the world. Maybe, they are really them. But, let's not start now. Let's talk about whether we can find them. Even if we do, we may not be able to find the culprit and kill him. Then Master, what should we do? The third elder's goal has been achieved. As for whether the sect leader kills people or not, he doesn't care at all. However, Mu Jiahua and Nangong Tingfen either escaped far away or simply died. Just be afraid, they will appear in front of the sect leader again, and when his lies are exposed, he will probably be punished with death. But if he could continue to practice before that, make progress, and become the strongest person in the sect besides him, then lying would be no longer a problem. It's still strength after all. What to do? Liangban. The sect leader waved his hand and said, since we belong to the Lingdun sect, we will record this grudge for the time being. The sect has been practicing recently, so don't go out. The secret realm of ascending to immortality may be opened at any time. If we have a few more gods, supplemented by our demonic moon secret technique, we can capture most of the resources. The revival of the demonic moon sect is just around the corner. I have to say, this is a great era. By the way, sect master, the third elder suddenly said again at this time, there has been no news about the disciples assigned to the eastern mortal realm for a long time. Do you want to? We don't care about the affairs of the mortal world for the time being. We'd better take care of ourselves first. The sect leader interrupted him directly. In fact, it's not that he doesn't want to take care of it, it's actually that he can't take care of it. Yes, sect master. The third elder followed the sect leader back in the direction they came from. After a whole day and night, quietly and silently, Mu Incarnation escaped from the ancient tree, dug out Nangong Tingfeng from the pile of dead leaves, held her in his arms and used the immortality secret, and ran towards the outside of Juyu land. The Demon Moon sect is definitely not a good person. Originally, he didn't know anything about the secret realm of immortal ascension, and thought it was just a secret realm with countless resources. After all, it is related to the word Xianxia. But what I didn't expect was that the Demon Moon sect could control the power of the Blood Moon in the secret realm. This matter is no small matter when the main body is missing. First go to Xianguang sect and find Xiu'er, and then we will see the situation, whether to take them to Sword Valley or stay in Xianguang section. Alas, Xianguang sect is too weak. If there are more nascent soul stages, I will not be in trouble. If you don't practice, give them more elixirs to help them cultivate to the point of becoming gods. By then, with the strength of their numbers, they might become a big force in the secret realm of the Ascension Immortal. After the wooden incarnation ran out of Juyu land, it flew into the air. This could be regarded as Zuyun's lack of preparation. He did not prepare a spiritual weapon for Mu incarnation. Otherwise, it would not be so difficult to deal with the third elder. The real body is missing. If we don't wait until now, go to the weapon refining sect and get a magic weapon. A few days later, Mu Jiawa took Nangong Tingfeng and returned to Xianguang sect without any danger. Xiu'er was very happy to see Nangong Tingfeng. While she kept thanking Mu Jiajia, she also found that his aura was not as strong as Zuyun's body, and she also saw the worry on his face. Are you still the incarnation of Zuyun? Xiu'er asked. Well, I am one of the avatars, Mu Jiawa nodded and said, what are your plans? What's the plan? Xiu'er was stunned and didn't know why. Mu Huahua pointed at the unconscious Nangong Tingfeng and said, she blew up her magic weapon and was severely injured. I don't know much about magic, and my ability to transform is insufficient, so I have no means to save her. So, I have two options now. You tell me first and listen. Xiu'er stood up straight and listened to Mu Jiawa's words. I don't want to go to Sword Valley. After my sister wakes up, she can make her own decision. Besides, I don't know what the situation in Sword Valley is now. You also said that Feng Qingyang is only at the nascent soul stage. You haven't given it to me yet. The two large formations deployed are safe. Xiu'er said bluntly. That's good, Mu Hua said without any disturbance. How are you preparing the sea poisons collected by Ergu? There are some. Can I take you to see them? Xiu'er saw that Mu Jiji's worried look had not faded away, so she naturally had no intention of talking nonsense. No, let's continue preparations. How are the 6 nascent soul stagers who stayed behind doing? The Mu incarnation also had his own ideas. The main body gave each of them a bottle of soul-shaping pill, plus an equal share of 100 bottles of infant training pill. As long as your talent and luck are not too bad, you should be able to reach the peak of your cultivation. When the time comes, as long as the opportunity comes and a minor catastrophe is triggered, as long as there is one more stage of transformation into gods, you can do a lot more in the secret realm of ascension. He vaguely guessed that the secret realm of ascension to immortality might be an important key to the subsequent development of the spiritual world. It concerns all monks and the next development trend of the spiritual world. They just came back from the sea. They plan to recuperate for a day and go out together tomorrow. Xiu'er's words made Mu Huashan happy. He quickly said, "Tell them to come see me. I have something to say to them."